In terms of looking at our development framework, one of the things that is very clear to us is the need for transformation. Is the need for us to be the first movers. And in that respect, we have positioned ourselves to be an export-led country. So if you are an export-led economy, then you must be positioned in a way such that you produce goods, you are able to generate and produce services that are not only consumed within your geographical borders, but this should be exported to other countries. And this CFTA, this Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, is one of the opportune instruments and frameworks that have come in good time for us as Kenyans, because then we'll be able to actualize that which we had foreseen in terms of Kenya being an export-led economy. And so for us, it's no brainer, really. I mean, there are a lot of benefits that we can see as a country in terms of development.
Tell me, let's look at services in particular, because just as of yesterday, you were on one plenary session and you were speaking on how the AFCFTA could actually help on that particular growth. With Kenya, we know Kenya is one of the biggest when it comes to technology. When you look at exports also to other countries, Kenya is still the leading in East Africa at more fronts than any other country, in the region. Tell me, how do you see this now being more, pushing or having a significant impact on the services that Kenya has to provide on this market?
You see, with a CFTA in place, and once we actualize it, then there is that mindset change among Africans, that you can do business, you can go and look for services, you can go and offer services anywhere in Africa. And if you tie then that with Kenya being a fairly advanced and fairly well-used communication hub, then you can see the convergence of the many frameworks that we have in Kenya in terms of that communication hub, in terms of excellence in training, because on the human capital we have done fairly well in that area, and also appropriate policy framework which supports offering services, the training that we are able to do. And so for us, we see all this being part of the bigger picture of Kenya actually actualizing some of the development goals that we have. And certainly there is also excess capacity. Like if you look at our technical, vocational, and training colleges, where we are offering mid-level training programs, we actually are underutilized in terms of the establishment that we have. We are utilizing not more than 20% of the capacity. So when you have a CFTA in place, then we'll be able to attract people from the region.
Let's jump a little bit away from the CFTA and look at matters at hand in Kenya happening now. We know that you introduced a framework to actually ensure the disbursement of funds to counties, and this comes on the back of a lot of counties seeing, being hit by a financial crisis. But this has seen delays. What do you attribute that to?
Well, as I address the delays, let's first of all appreciate that Kenya as a government that is devolved from 2013. And that devolution then requires funding at the devolved government level, which was envisaged under the constitution that they would get 15% share, at least 15% share of the audited revenues from the national government level. And I would say that money has been disbursed to the counties. And obviously, Kenya is a country that operates on a balanced budget basis. Most of our revenues, it comes from taxes. We have very little support in terms of grants, in terms of money coming from outside Kenya. And so a lot of the financial flows between the national government and the county government in terms of the allocations, exchequer kind of releases, it depends on the timing of receipts from tax collections. And obviously last year, of course, we had 2 elections, which is not very cheap to hold. And also we have the same situation that you would see in developing countries, where sometimes there is a situation where there is a negative development outside the economy, and then you get kind of like the heat. Even sometimes you've got the challenge of rainfall, because we are basically an agricultural country where agriculture contributes over a quarter of our GDP. So to that extent, then when we don't collect enough revenues through the taxes, then we will not have enough money timely to release to the counties. And that's practical.
Of course, of course. Doctor, you came out to blame the counties for not reaching the revenue targets that were set, which is understandable because the country runs on revenues, just as you've said. But who is to blame here? Is it the governors of these counties, or is it the persistent delays of funds to actually make implementation of transformational projects even faster? Who is to blame here? And if it is for the governors or the counties that are not performing, how does the government come in to actually help them now?
Michael, actually I operate on a positive kind of strand. I would not want to call it blame. I would like to say when we analyze the facts, we would see that according to the targets that the counties had put together, if you aggregate the numbers, they were able to achieve just about 2/3 of the targets. And what do I say about that? First of all, there are macroeconomic development issues within the country, like I've talked about rainfall being a rain-fed agriculture country. I mean, the issue about taxes being less than they were envisaged. And so all these things happen at the same time. So what I'm saying is that we are young in terms of devolution, and the counties are learning. They are getting to understand that they need to go deeper into the permitted revenue lines that they are allowed, you know, property taxes, entertainment taxes, services that they render, and also investment income. So they are learning. Also, of course, if you look at their collection mechanisms and methods, they haven't yet perfected them. And give them the benefit of the doubt. They are young. And technology is going also to help them. I mean, when you link them to our Kenya Revenue Authority, so that Kenya Revenue Authority helps them to collect taxes. When they look at clever ways like maybe some waivers when people have penalties, and also looking at ways in which they can update their valuation roles so that they can have more up-to-date information. I see that increasing. But initially, a lot of things when you start, you've got teething problems, and that is natural. So I'm not surprised, but I know they will